So you want to know how to get stronger? Well, in today's video, we're going to carry on the conversation from yesterday and talk about the best strength exercises. All that and more coming up right after this. We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.
Hey everyone, in case we haven't met, my name is Rad Burmeister. That's my brother Yanni Burmeister, and we are the co-founders of Unity Gym and the co-creators of the UMS, formerly the FMS, where we teach you how to nourish and move instead of diet and exercise. And today is really part 2 to a show that we did yesterday, where we got asked a really cool question. It's something that a lot of people really don't understand, and that is, we did a video on a press to handstand workout. We've actually done a couple of them, a beginner, intermediate, and advanced, that we posted at the start of this week, so check that out if you want to know what I'm talking about. And in a couple of the videos, we have a drill that we do for a beginner to be able to work on the press to handstand, where you do an eccentric movement against the wall. And someone asked the question, I can't get halfway through this move before I start losing strength in my shoulders. What do I need to work on? And the answer is simple. You need to work on raw strength, barbells. And that's what we're talking about today. Something that's quite misunderstood, because people would think if you want to get better at calisthenics, you do calisthenics, isn't that right? That's what you'd think.
That's exactly right. Now, we've also got 3 really great questions that have come through based off the back of yesterday's show discussion that we want to answer today. We've got a question from Jim Poindexter, Moving Free Norman, who are both regulars on our show, and ARCD1. I don't know whether I'm meant to be trying to say something with that, but anyway, we're going to dive into each of your questions in this show. We're going to talk about a key insight with this one, which is really the basis and premise of this whole discussion, which is that you should periodically perform a strength training phase on barbells, focusing on the big lifts that are determined by strength testing protocols. Now, one of the questions which I'll kick the show off today was what are the 3 big lifts that we tipped on yesterday, and we're gonna there's a caveat to the 3 big lifts. I like to add a 4th big lift, which is a pull-up, which doesn't use a barbell, a bent over row or a pull-up, just to really round out the pulling patterns. Deadlift is arguably a pulling pattern, but
let's get into it. Tell them, what are the 3 big lifts?
And the biggest mistake we're also going to talk about at the end, so stick around for that. Okay, the 3 big lifts are, for anyone who's into powerlifting, the powerlifting lifts, which start with the bench press, then the barbell back squat, and then the barbell deadlift. Now, the reason why those lifts have become the 3 big lifts in powerlifting, I really don't know the true answer to that, except for the fact that they work the entire body. You've got a pushing pattern, you've got a pulling pattern, and you've got a squatting pattern, and you've got a bending pattern. And that really, it fundamentally is working the entire body, arguably. Now, we like to say that it's not quite complete without a pull-up or a bent over row pattern, but there would be people that would argue against that. Do you have anything else to say about that?
Well, I mean, just that, the research that we've seen shows that the big bang for your buck barbell movements are the ones that have the biggest improvement in athletic ability.
The biggest carryover.
The biggest carryover to all fields.
All strength, athletic strength disciplines. And that's like anything. Like, let's define that first quickly. Anything, I don't think getting good at deadlifts is going to help lawn bowls much. It might, but I don't think so. So what we talk about with strength sports is anything where you have to develop or produce velocity, speed, or power. So rugby, football, NFL, soccer, baseball, sprinting, cricket, basketball, volleyball, anything where you've got to develop speed, strength, or you've got to produce morning clock. So, which is pretty much most sports except for, lawn bowls, kerning, Table tennis, maybe.
Yeah.
You know,
pool, snooker.
Snooker, yeah, that's true. Billiards, you know. So that's a big one. You know, arguably bodybuilding. I don't know whether this is such a debatable topic, but there are people that don't believe in doing sort of deadlifts and heavy squats and things for bodybuilding because the risk versus reward is too high, and bodybuilders are trying to lower the amount of risk because they do so much volume and put a lot of stress and metabolic stress on their body anyway. But I don't know many great bodybuilders who don't squat and deadlift. I don't know many great bodybuilders myself. I know a few, you know. So there you go. That's the three big lifts: barbell deadlift, bench press, and back squat. And then we like to throw in a fourth, which would be another pull pattern, which would be chin-ups or bent over row. Mm-hmm. Point number 2 for today's discussion: should you use a weight belt when lifting heavy? And this was a question from a question from Jim, and it's a really great question. And I would like to take this one if you don't mind.
I don't know much about this one. You're the expert.
Yeah, because in you'll see in a lot of my training sessions I use a weight belt. Now I only use a pretty flimsy 3mm weight belt. I would prefer to have a 10mm lever arch weight belt, which are the real good ones that the guys in the powerlifting comps use. And I probably will invest in one eventually. Now, there used to be a notion that if you wore a weight belt, your core became weak. And it's interesting because I looked into a bit of research recently from a lady called Sarah Key, who's a very well-known sort of physiotherapist. And she has actually indicated in her lectures that it's quite the contrary. The weight belt actually gives you a little bit of proprioception and something to brace against, and you get increased core activation and abdominal activation. The reality is that the weight belt is not going to save you from a back injury. What it does do, though, is just like if I palpate Rad's muscle, his brain finds it easier to connect to that muscle, and he can flex that muscle and tense that muscle easier. And so when we use that weight belt, it gives us something to press against and cues us to press against that. And that upregulates the core and basically abdominal bracing mechanism. And it's just a lot safer. It's a lot better. And Sarah does recommend, she's a really, really good physio, and she recommends using a weight belt. I recommend using a weight belt. And most of my friends who are really successful powerlifters recommend using weight belts. Now, the thing you got to understand is with exercise and physical exercise, we are pushing our bodies to the limit often, and it's about risk versus reward, and it's about longevity for us. And you know, you want to be lifting and strength training right into your adult years, and even when you're an old frail person, or hopefully you don't become frail because of your strength training. So risk versus reward, yes, Jim, I do recommend using a weight belt when you are lifting heavy, particularly on the 3 big lifts. Do you have anything to add to that?
No. You've covered it. No.
All right, cool. So you, because you've been silent for so long, can answer the next one. Can you still develop raw strength with calisthenics alone?
Well, the short answer...
This is a big question.
The short answer is yes, because there's plenty of calisthenics dudes out there. Yeah, there's plenty of calisthenics dudes out there who are amazing at calisthenics who have probably never been into a gym before and never lifted weights before. But those same people have got legs like this, and they don't have what we would call all-over strength. And I've seen some of the guys that I've followed on Instagram who are, I mean, even the yoga dudes that are doing, like, I guess almost calisthenics yoga, where the yoga almost represents slight gymnastics, like they're doing press to handstands and then these hectic Mexican handstands in their yoga routines, and then coming down into air babies and stuff like that. But then I've seen them post videos when they go to a gym and they're showing themselves do some back squats, and they're doing like 40 kilo back squats, which is nothing. That's that's not barely even a warm up set for us. And that's not all over strength. It really isn't, And then the other thing is that So, in our opinion, true strength is the ability to express your strength throughout your entire body. It's not just the ability
both
to be
in
able
and
to
out
do
of the gym.
Yeah, in and
the
out of the
real
gym.
world.
So it's not just the ability to be able to do calisthenics, to be able to do a planche and to be able to do 10 muscle ups and to be able to do one arm pull ups and front levers and all that. It's also to be able to express strength in your lower body. And the true test of expressing strength with the lower body is with weight, because that's what the strongest people in the world are doing. The strongest people in the world are doing more than double body weight back squats, triple body weight back squats, and ridiculous amounts of deadlifts and things like that. So,
and here's the thing, okay? We've had a really good example of one of our friends who's arguably one of the strongest guys in the country. He is the strongest guy in the country in his weight division in powerlifting, and I've seen him demonstrate a human flag the very first time he ever did it, or even attempted to do it, just through raw strength. So there is certainly a carryover.
We also saw so that's Sebastian Oreb, who's on Instagram, Australian strength coach, if you want to check him out. And his brother Cameron Oreb, there was another one. All he ever does is weightlifting. That's it. It's just weights. And I said to him one day, I said, have you ever tried a muscle up before, Cam? And he went, what's a muscle up? And I said, you grab onto a bar and you go over like this. And I swear to you, in front of our eyes, he said, what's a muscle up? He grabbed onto a bar, not rings, a bar, no false grip, and he went like this. And he didn't get over it cleanly. Like he
looked ugly as crap.
Like this, but he got up to the bar and went, and muscled himself over the bar. And he went, is that what you meant? And I was just like, I had my jaw on the floor. I was like, are you fucking
no
kidding
momentum,
me?
no kip, no nothing, no false grip, just raw strength.
Raw strength.
And these are big guys. These are guys up
They're
around
massive.
the 90
Have a look
to
at him
100
on
kilo.
Instagram. Look at Cameron Oreb, Cameron with a C, Oreb on Instagram. He is a unit, man.
Yeah.
And look at his brother Sebastian Oreb, Australian strength coach on Instagram.
And I had the same experience when Rad showed me how to do a false grip on the rings. Within about 2 hours, I could do a muscle up with 10 kilos strapped to my waist because of my raw strength,
Whereas I'd done hardly any weightlifting back then, and I'd worked my butt off to do one muscle up for months and months and months and months. So going back to the question, can you get strong only doing calisthenics? Yes, you can, but you can't get strong over your entire body. There's no way you can get strong in your legs. And someone that we follow and that we have learned from and who's a friend of ours, Daniel Vadnal, Fitness FAQs, he's breaking the mold of calisthenics by advocating weightlifting for the lower body.
Yeah.
And he is one of the few people who are good at calisthenics out there who
he periodically does weightlifting as well.
Who has a great physique over his whole body, not just in his upper body.
Yeah.
And he also said, when we asked him, when we said, do you think having strong legs works against calisthenics? He said, well, it depends on what you regard as being good at calisthenics, because as your legs get stronger, they build weight, which makes it harder for you to do calisthenics, which means that you get stronger because you have to adapt to that extra weight in your lower body.
Yeah, that's right. So it comes down to a number of factors, and this is answering your question. You will get strong doing calisthenics, but it's incomparable to the strength you can develop using barbells, kettlebells, and dumbbells for different parts of your body. And it really depends on what you want. But what I do know for a fact is that there are benefits to mixing up your training and periodizing your programming to undulate between very focused on calisthenics to a phase of programming where you focus on simplicity and raw strength using things like barbells. You come back to calisthenics stronger and better at it. And we've seen that firsthand time and time again in our gym, which is what we do. We have periods of our year where it's very much focused on body weight training, and then we do a phase of weightlifting, and then we go back to body weight training. We use a strength testing protocol to determine what big lifts the guys are focusing on in their strength training and to test strength progression. And we get amazing results doing that. And I highly recommend that that's what people try to do if they have access to gym equipment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's the last thing I want to leave you on with this is that it's very easy to maintain strength. It's not so easy to gain strength or get strength, And a lot of guys that you see who advocate calisthenics and body weight training had a foundation of weightlifting first. And that goes for many great teachers like Ido Portal and people like that, you know. A lot of them even originated from bodybuilding, and they developed their physique initially through bodybuilding training. Then they get really good at strength training, and then later on in life, much like we did, they find and migrate to calisthenics, because it's a very, very liberating thing to untether yourself from gym equipment and learn how to control and master your body. And I thoroughly believe that it should happen in that order. You should build a base level of mass first, and then develop a base foundation of raw strength, and then find calisthenics. It's safer, and in most cases, the real good guys, that's how they did it, you know. And as Red said, it doesn't mean you can't do it just through calisthenics alone.
We probably should make a disclaimer and say not most of the good guys, because we don't really know that.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
From what there are definitely people out there that did it that way.
Yeah, but I see some of the most amazing examples of calisthenics, like those Russian and Eastern Bloc guys, and they're all twigs. Like, I look at them and go, how does that guy have so much strength? But they're all quite small, you know. And what that is neural reinforcement. That's greasing the groove, but they're not building a lot of muscle. And then on the flip side, I see street workout guys in America who clearly use exogenous hormone therapy because of the size and the amount of mass that these guys carry, and they do mostly calisthenics, you know. And you know, so it's hard to sort of judge what, you know, who's doing it naturally, and then what kind of physique and strength are you looking for? Are you looking for, because, you know, ballet dancers are ruthlessly strong. You know, they're amazingly strong, but if you got them arguably under a bench press, they probably might not be able to do much, you know, or into a gymnastics routine, they might be able to do much, you know. So
look at what Richard's just said. Richie, you probably could have just said that to us, considering that you're sitting right there. But so Richie's saying Richard is our business partner and the master behind the camera. But you can, if you're watching this video later when it's not live, because these live comments don't carry over.
Or if you're on the TV watching it.
Yep. Richard's saying, I tried pistol squats before barbell work and couldn't do them at all. And then I trained my back squat for a while and then came back to pistol squats, and they were really easy for me. Full range, arse to grass for 5 to 8 reps. Yeah. It's so true.
And that's an example of what I was saying there. Maintaining it is much easier than gaining it. And I really, really can't stress this enough. The strongest guys in the world keep it simple, and they develop really raw strength. And look, I worked with the late Charles Poliquin, and there was a very key, straightforward blueprint to training athletes. And he trained a lot of athletes, and it was to get them strong first. And use simplicity, structural balance training first to iron out any imbalances in the body and areas that might put them at risk of injury, and then just get them strong. And most people improve dramatically, no matter what their sport is, just by doing that, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so the big mistake today, and this is what we've just sort of talked about there, is that people dive into barbell lifting far too early and fail to overcome structural imbalances prior to strength training. Set a solid foundation first. Let's go into that quickly before we wrap this up.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, look, I mean, there's different ways to skin a cat. People do things differently, but our way and what we've found works best for people is to start with structural balance training, which...
It's not just our way. It's Ian King's way. It's Charles Poliquin's way. It's Tony Battagi's way. It's many of the best strength coaches in the world. Yeah. Ido Portal. Yeah. I could probably name quite a few more, you know. Yeah. Of the best strength coaches in the world.
Yeah,
you know,
structural balance
my friends
training.
over at Clean Health, Dane McDonald, they all do it. The guys at Up Performance do it. You know, it's certainly, I think, the better way to train.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, and starting with structural balance first.
So what is structural balance?
Well, structural balance is creating symmetry from left to right side, and also balance between agonist and antagonist in the joint. That's traditionally what structural balance is, but for us, it's also creating a balance between strength and flexibility.
Yeah, that's right.
And then once that balance is created, or at least at a base level of balance, we then move into barbell work, and it becomes much safer, and we get great results with that.
Yeah, and so initially...
We even overcome some really old chronic injuries that people have been carrying that they thought they were never going to get rid of by doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the key to structural balance is using dumbbells over barbells, and that's like, I know that's a caveat to the earlier argument that barbells are the best way to produce strength, but when you're ironing out imbalances and you're going for improved symmetry in the body, you need to use dumbbells because each limb needs its own weight, and you dictate the weight based on the weaker side so that they even up over time. It usually takes anywhere from 9 to 12 weeks. Charles Poliquin used to advocate a 9-week structural balance phase of training. We do a little bit longer than that because we train general populations more than professional athletes. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell, guys. Have you got anything else? Ooh, I'm in a nutshell.
No, I think that's it. We got another great show tomorrow. We are going to be talking about the concept of overreaching and superaccumulation.
Ooh, the best strength
training
program.
So we're going to give you guys a glimpse into the best strength training program that we've found that gives the biggest improvement in strength in a very short period of time. So make sure you watch tomorrow to check that out.
One word, superaccumulation, or is that 2 words?
2 words, I think.
Super accumulation. Cool. 2 words. Make sure you tune in tomorrow, guys. It's going to be a big show. We will see you then. Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, that's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that far.
It's the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.